Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the iBUG Introductory Mac Training Program for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. I am your instructor, Chanel Allen, and we have a lot to cover with tonight's lesson. We will get into announcements, but first of all, our iBUG founder and director, Michael McCulloch, would like to introduce himself. So go ahead, Michael.
Thanks, Chanel. Yeah, I have to apologize. Normally I like to do this on the first class, but I just wanted to drop by and just say hello to everyone. Some of you I know, others I've never met, and just want, really thank you for participating in our training, and hopefully you find this, useful to you and are able to, be able to continue to become more proficient in using the Mac. And who knows, at some point you may be teaching one of these classes. So
Yep,
we're just really glad to have you and just welcome. Thanks,
definitely.
Chanel.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and introducing yourself and saying hello. All right. So this week we have a few events taking place. On Saturday, we have our Apple iBug workshop, and we will be doing a show and tell. Some people will be talking about their neat gadgets and toys that they received for Christmas or throughout the year in general. That is Saturday from 2 to 4 p.m. Don't forget, we were talking about it briefly in the pre-introduction, whatever, when people were coming in, but we do have iBug Buzz that takes place every Monday from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. It's for anyone with iOS questions, iDevices, and even if you don't have questions, well, at least I always learn something. So definitely check that out. And this Thursday, we have our iBug Trekkie Talk taking place at 8 p.m. We are watching Star Trek. Star Trek: The Next Generation, Season 3, Episodes 19 and 20. And we watch those before we come together to discuss them. So we'd love to have you. And last but certainly not least, our iBug night at the virtual movies, beginning at 7:30 with a pre-movie social, followed by the movie at 8. And there's always an announcement. I think there's that new announcement, Apple Watch giveaway or something that Sonia, maybe you can mention in addition to the movie. I forgot
All
the
right.
details.
So yeah, thank you, Chanel. So our movie is Bringing Up Baby. It's a really sweet romantic comedy, far contrast from what we watched last week. So we hope you come and visit and watch with us. And as far as the Apple giveaway, we are doing a fundraiser. We're going to be giving away a Series 6 Apple Watch, the latest and greatest watch, worth $400. Can be yours for $10. So if you already have one, buy one for a friend or buy a new one for yourself. So, and you'd also be supporting us, and we'd love for you to come for that. And then we also have our Android Insight tomorrow night. So
that's right.
we
Thank
want
you.
to talk about anything relating to Android. Come and visit, and even anything related to your Alexa devices. So thank you, Chanel.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I had you. I forgot about Android Insight. Yes, so come. We've got lots of things for you to be and participate in. Okay, let's take a few minutes now to go over the questions from last week. I will just ask some of the questions, and if anyone knows the answer, say your name first, and then I'll give you the go-ahead. And if you've already answered, try to give other people a chance before answering another one. Or I know some of these are team efforts, so. All right, number 1, how do you adjust VoiceOver speech attributes using the keyboard?
This is Nancy.
Yes, Nancy.
You hold down Shift, Control, Option, Command, and then you use the left or right arrows to find whether you want to speed up or slow down the speed up or change the tone or change the pitch.
Yep.
That might be the same thing. The volume, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
and then use the up or down arrow to change that.
Very good. Excellent. Yep. All right. So we talked last week about menu extras and the control center. So, what's the VO command to access the menu extras or the status menus, and the VO command to access the control center? So, there's two commands I'm asking about.
This is Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
To get to the menu extras, you do the VOMM.
Yep. Very good. All right. And the
This is
control
Rosanna.
center?
The control center, isn't it VO? Well, you go to VOMM to get to that menu extras, and then you can VO right to control center.
Yeah, that's one way. And don't forget
Oh.
to say your name before you
Yeah, I
answer the
did.
question. Oh, I'm sorry. My headset cut off. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember now what. Oh, was it VO? I'm trying to just remember in my head what that command was because it's on the tip of my tongue, obviously.
All right. Does someone what?
It's not command VO. It's not VOO, is it?
Close. It's VO Shift O.
VO Shift O. Okay,
Yep.
I like that. I knew it was on the tip of my tongue.
All right. So, who can tell me how we access the VoiceOver help menu?
Marion,
Yes, Marion.
VOH,
Yep. And how about the shortcut for commands help?
VOHH.
Yep. All right. Who wants to tell me what are two purposes of commands help?
Hmm. Hmm.
All right.
This is Rosanna. I didn't want to answer the question because I did already.
Uh-huh.
But if I remember, the commands help was to help you with VO commands.
Right. It's basically to allow you to either learn what things you can do with VO, learn all, the different categories and explore what VO can do, and also to search for a command. If you want to do something that you think is a voiceover function, you can search for that, or if it's just too complicated to press the keys on the keyboard. So yes, it's basically for searching for commands and learning about commands. All right, so then how do you search for a voiceover command?
Hmm.
This is Nancy.
This is Rita.
Rita, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Rita?
You press VOHH twice, and then you can start typing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an edit field, editable field there where you could start typing.
Yeah, so you start typing and the results narrow down, and then you either press enter on the result you want or down arrow to the one you want and then press enter, which kind of goes into my next question. How do you carry out a command once you find it? So does anyone know, or was anyone able to do the reading? And can you tell me what is one purpose of Mac help discussed in your reading assignment?
I don't remember seeing that. Hmm.
Marion,
Yes, Marion.
if nobody else knows. Well, it's similar to VoiceOver command help, and you can learn the Mac commands, and you can also customize commands.
Yeah, so with the Mac help, it's really a way that's very good. You can, it's mainly a way to search the menu bar. So, for example, if you're composing an email and you need to reply to all, that's at least a command I forget about sometimes, and maybe you can't remember what that reply all, you can't remember the shortcut or what menu it's in, you can go into Mac help and type in reply all. And it's kind of like commands help, the results will narrow down. And first it shows the menu items. So yes, very good. Something can be useful if you don't want to spend a bunch of time looking through menus. All right. So the kind of the summary for this, what is the difference between Mac and VoiceOver keyboard commands?
This is Nancy.
Go ahead.
The difference between VoiceOver and Mac commands, is that what you just asked?
Yes.
Okay, so VoiceOver commands are what we use to make the screen reader work.
Mm-hmm.
And Mac commands, and they usually have the VO command that go with them to do
Right.
something. And then the Mac commands are commands that everyone can use to make their Mac work. And they usually have a command like Command C or Command V for paste or something like that.
Excellent. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right. So how do you navigate among menu bars or among menu bar menus? Sorry. Oh, did somebody say their name? All right.
This is Dorothy.
Oh,
I'll try.
Dorothy. Okay, go ahead.
All right. You said, how do you navigate?
Yeah, how do you navigate among menu bar menus like File, App, or Apple, Finder, File, those things?
Oh, now you stumped me.
Oh, well, what was your first thought? Didn't mean to
My
do that.
first thought is when you're in the menu bar, you the regular menu bar, you navigate with the arrow key, right or left
Yeah,
arrow key.
perfect.
And if you're in the extras menu, you use your VoiceOver arrow keys.
Very good. Yeah, you technically can use VO space and VO left and VO right in the menu bars, but you don't need to. The only place, like you said, you need to use that is the menu extras. Sometimes you guys say things more eloquently than I do. Perfect. All right. And then just related to that, how do you navigate in or open and close menus within menus, also known as submenus?
This is Rita.
Yeah, Rita, go ahead.
I VO left arrow to close a submenu is how I back out.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And then once I've got them collapsed, I hit escape.
All right. Very good. Yeah. You can use VO left, or I just use left, a relic of my Windows days, or right to open. Because in the VoiceOver commands help, you have those different categories, and then like right arrow, or like you said, VO right, in those categories, or same as if, in the Finder, maybe you have go to, and that's a submenu. So yeah, very good.
Can I
Okay,
ask a question about that, Chanel? So
sure.
you're going across the menu bar using the arrow keys, right, left arrow keys, and then you get to edit, and you want to go into the sub menu.
First, you
I
need.
thought you what?
Yeah, I realized I didn't explain. So once you want to open a menu, then you press down arrow. But to get it to the submenus inside that menu, so you're going along, you see edit, and then you see a submenu for, I don't know, find or whatever, and then you would right arrow to expand that submenu.
Oh, so a second layer down,
Yeah.
extra. Okay.
Yep. All right, I'll try to make a note to myself to make that more clear. Okay.
No.
And what?
This is Nancy. Sorry. So you don't have to push VO space first. You just hit the
Yeah,
right.
No.
I thought when you're on edit, you have to hit the VO space bar, and then down arrow, or can you just
You
down
can if you
arrow?
want. There's the thing with the
if you
Mac
don't
is
have to.
there's no muss. You know, if you know a combination of keys, just do whatever feels good to your fingers. I seriously, as long as you know the general principle, the down arrow or VO space, you know, opens menus, or same with activating items, you know, VO space can activate them, you know that space bar can sometimes, you know, I just do what comes to my fingers, and if it's wrong, I'll realize it and correct it. So I know that kind of maybe makes a bit more confusion, but it's just what I found with the Mac. There are really sometimes no musts. It seems. So, um, okay. And Marion and I were talking about this earlier, but I'll just kind of leave you off. What is an advantage of changing the behavior of the function keys, particularly for VoiceOver users? Excuse me. I met Marion and I were talking about this. Did I say yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody else answer besides Marion.
This is Rosanna.
This is, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead,
Go.
Rosanna. Oh, Rosanna?
Yeah, no, I thought somebody else was going to answer. That's
No,
okay.
go ahead. You can
Um,
answer.
I the purpose of doing it would be to make it easier.
Right.
For people. I mean, some people like to use the caps lock key instead of the VO keys.
Yeah, actually, so we're talking about the function key behavior. So
Oh, that's
the
right.
yeah,
The function keys would make it easier if you want to do something specific that you're going to do all the time.
right.
If you put that on a function key, it would be much easier to access.
Right. Well, some keys you have to press the FN, like for VoiceOver, like to open the VoiceOver utility, you have to press VO FN F8. And so if you change the behavior of the function keys, then you'd only need to press VO F8. So it depends. Your volume, you know, it's by default set to change by just pressing F11 and F12. But if you hardly change the volume or the brightness or whatever, then you might want to set it so that pressing FN and the function keys changes the volume or the brightness, you know, the hardware things. And changing, you know, just using the function keys by themselves with VoiceOver commands or whatever other modifiers would work to activate those. So maybe that'll make more sense as we go along, and you can definitely continue to ask questions. I mean, does anyone else have a better way of explaining it? Or maybe people don't use the function keys as much as I do. All right. Well, let's see. Then I think we will go ahead and go on to the lesson. And we will continue on with the VoiceOver utility. So let's see. I am sharing my screen, and we will continue with, let's see.
You have started computer.
All right, so I'm going to go to the VoiceOver utility with VO F8. If you didn't set the behavior of the function keys, then you would need to press VO FN F8 or VO FN and the number 8. That works as well. But I'm just going to use VO F8.
Opening VoiceOver utility. VoiceOver utility. VoiceOver utility window. Utility categories table. General. Selected has keyboard
All right,
focus.
we talked about general, and the main things there, I demonstrated how you can change the VoiceOver modifier. It's actually set to use either caps lock or control and option, but you can set it to one or the other. I prefer caps lock, but there are times when I do use Control and Option. You also want to check an option there, allow VoiceOver to be controlled with Apple Script, and that is necessary for any commands that involve, well, Apple scripts, like reading the time of day or the number of unread messages, or I think there's one for sending a screenshot to mail or something like that. And then
Verbosity.
we went on to verbosity. Now, I landed in this table, or this, it's really like a list, but for some reason, it's labeled as a table, probably because the options for each category are displayed to the right. So the categories are on the left, and then the options for those are displayed on the right. But they're not in the same table. So you can just think of many of these tables as a list. There are some where, you may have like a command and something else. We'll talk about that in commanders, but here we can just use the up and down arrow keys.
General.
So
Verbosity.
we talked about verbosity, and I mainly talked about turning off hints and how to do that.
Speech.
Speech, I showed you another way to change the rate and the pitch and things, and I told you where you could go to download additional voices.
Navigation.
Now we are going to go through navigation. Navigation pertains to how the VoiceOver cursor, in combination with the keyboard cursor and the mouse cursor, how they move together or interact, whatever. And you might think, okay, there's all these different cursors. Well, if you're familiar with a Windows screen reader, sometimes you have to invoke different cursor modes to get access to different sets of information on the screen. It's a bit different that way. With VoiceOver, what you see with the VoiceOver cursor is everything that you can possibly see using speech or hear, whatever the case may be. Still, VoiceOver works in tandem with a keyboard cursor and a mouse cursor. And you generally only need to route those together or whatever in more advanced type applications, but we'll go through settings here that should be default.
Initial position of VoiceOver cursor. Keyboard focused item. Initial position of VoiceOver cursor. Pop-up button.
Initial position of VoiceOver cursor. Okay, the first is keyboard, so I'm just going to
Menu
press
check
space
mark.
here.
Keyboard focused item.
This said button.
Keyboard initial. Keyboard focused item. Initial position of VoiceOver cursor. Pop-up button.
Yeah, a pop-up button. So a pop-up button or a button, you can use space or VO space. Again, it doesn't matter. If one doesn't work, try the other.
Menu check mark. Keyboard focused item.
And so the keyboard focused item.
First item in window.
Or first item in window. So maybe you are working in several different apps and you switch between those apps with Command Tab or have different windows open in different applications. When you return to your work in one application, do you want VoiceOver to stay at the same place as the keyboard cursor? So in other words, do you want VoiceOver to keep your place? Or when you return to an app or window, do you always want it to focus on the first item?
Focused item.
And so,
keyboard focused item. Initial position of
keyboard focused item will keep your place.
grouping behavior. Standard. Grouping behavior.
Okay.
Pop-up button.
Grouping behavior. I have not fully explored what the different options do or, how, but basically grouping behavior has to deal with what is displayed, whether VoiceOver notifies you about groups. Groups are more relevant on websites, maybe just depending on how sites are arranged, you could have groups within a table or just a group of options. It's kind of this element that whatever VoiceOver puts certain things together in groups. It can do that, or some things for whatever reason are just labeled as groups. So does VoiceOver tell you about those groups? Does it require you to interact in those groups? Does it announce the start and end? Keep in mind if you
menu check mark. Standard.
choose
Bookend groups. Announce groups. Bookend groups.
announce
groups. Ignore groups.
or ignore
Check
groups.
mark. Standard.
You may not have to
Standard.
interact, but then you may be required to VO arrow or tab through many more options. Because what interacting does, and it eliminates the need to go through things that you may really not be interested in. We don't need to always go to the toolbar and system preferences. So that's why we have to interact with it if we really want to go view those items. Okay.
Synchronize keyboard focus and voiceover cursor. Checked. Checkbox.
Synchronize keyboard focus and voice over cursor. You definitely want to have this option checked. I was working with someone once who she was trying to type something in the Mac App Store, trying to look for a update to, I don't know, Mac OS, and what she was typing was not getting entered into the text field. It just made bonk sounds, whatever. Well, what happened is her keyboard cursor was not in the place that the voiceover cursor was at. So when that happens, you have to do like VO command F4. Again, most of the time, you really don't need to worry about that unless you want to know where an item is positioned on screen, or like with the mouse, if you want to drag something on the Mac, which we can do with VoiceOver. We don't do dragging as often as sighted people, but we still may use it. So anyway, the point of it, if you can have the keyboard cursor and voiceover cursor be in sync, that is best.
Mouse pointer follows voiceover cursor. Mouse pointer.
Mouse pointer, you either want it to ignore or follow. I think the
Menu
default
check mark follows voiceover cursor.
is actually ignores. I just press space to activate the menu.
Moves voiceover cursor. Ignores voiceover cursor.
And I'll press enter on ignores.
Ignores voiceover cursor. Mouse
And that way, if you really do need to click the mouse, which is actually done with VO Shift Space, I'm not going to ask a question about these cursor routing and different things like that. But if you do, then you use a special command to move the mouse to the voiceover cursor. And that's, again, mainly more for dragging things or activating buttons that just don't want to work with VO Space.
Allow cursor wrapping unchecked. Checkbox.
Okay, cursor wrapping, if I select that with space
Checked.
or VO Space, and then I will just press VO right.
Skip redundant labels unchecked. Automatically interact when using tab. Enable fast searching. Right command key. Help button. Close button.
And
Minimize but zoom but toolbar.
we wrapped right around to the beginning, to the close, and then the toolbar. I don't like to have, by the way, I was using VO right. So you want to use VO right and left when you're in a dialogue, or, when you're in, like we were talking about, the menu extras. Since there's lots of options here in this dialogue, we use VO right.
Zoom button,
but
dim.
I'm going to turn the wrapping off because I like to use VO home and VO end. And we had a good discussion about that this week on our list. As I was trying to say, on a Mac keyboard, function or FN up arrow and down arrow are home and end, and FN left and right arrows are up and down are page up and page down, and left and right are home and end. The problem is it may only move the cursor visually. To actually have the VO cursor move, you have to add the VO keys. So then you actually do move to the bottom or the top. For example, to move to the end, or the first item in a window, it's VO home. So then if you were using your inbuilt Mac keyboard, it would be VO FN left arrow. Or the end would be VO FN right arrow. So anyway, I just prefer to use things like VOJ and VO home and end rather than have this cursor wrapping on. But that's entirely your preference.
Zoom button dim.
Okay,
Toolbar.
let's go
Utility
find
initial
it.
keyboard grouping standard. Synchronize mouse pointer. Ignores. Allow cursor wrapping. Checked. Checkbox.
turn that
Unchecked.
off.
Skip redundant labels. Unchecked. Checkbox.
Okay, I think this involves like just repeating labels. I can't remember. You could check it around. I think I'll just
Checked.
check it because that way it doesn't read repeating labels on buttons. I'm not exactly sure where that comes up. I've forgotten.
Automatically interact when using tab key. Checked. Checkbox.
Automatically interact when using tab key. This is an excellent option to have checked, although lately I've found that interacting with the tab key isn't At least it could just be a fluke on my computer, but it hasn't been the same as using VO Shift down arrow or VOJ. In terms of if tab interacts, sometimes I don't need to uninteract, but that could just be a fluke. But yeah, if you make heavy use of the tab key, you'd probably want this option checked.
Automatically interact when using tab key. Checked. Enable fast searching. Unchecked. Checkbox.
I have never.
Fast searching allows you to use a command key, a letter, to find the next item on the screen that begins with that letter.
Okay, by the way, fast user searching, it describes what it is. That is a help tag. And if you turn hints off and help tags off, the way to bring up a help tag is VO Shift H.
Fast searching allows you to use a command key.
If you need to know what to do on an item in terms of VO keys, it's not going to tell you the Mac keyboard commands that I use, like the left and right arrows. It's going to tell you VO specific commands. Those are the VO hints, and that's why sometimes I suggest turning them off. But to get that hint, you can use VO Shift N.
Fast searching allows you to use a command key, a letter, to find the next. Fast searching allows automatic. Enable fast searching. Unchecked. Checkbox. Fast searching allows you to use a command.
It was VO Shift N, but right now it's just repeating the notification. But
right command key.
Okay.
Enable fast searching. Pop-up button. Dim.
I have not, like I said, I've not been able to get the fast searching to work. I tried it once. You can try it if you want.
Help button.
All right, and then help. This is excellent if you have questions about some of these options, which I did, or I needed to review what they were. All you need to do is press VO space and then VOJ. And it's easiest to read through the info with what's called QuickNav on. We'll go more into what QuickNav is in Safari, but that's roughly how you access the help. All right, now I'm going to use VOJ rather than VO Home. I'm going to use VOJ.
In utility categories, table, navigation, selected,
and I'm in the
navigation, row 4, navigation, row 4.
Okay, geez, it's being chatty. All right, I'm going to down arrow. Web, we will talk about in Safari, so we're skipping over that for now. Sound. Okay. Because I used VOJ, I need to uninteract. Normally, I would just use VO right. Let's say I go to the beginning with VO home, press VO right twice to get into the table, down arrow, and then I'd just be able to continue with VO right. But because I did VOJ, it did two things. It took me to the table and it interacted me. So in order to get out of that, I need to uninteract. For example, if I did right arrow, VO right.
Visuals. Sound.
We go on to visuals. I did VO left back to sound. So when you use VOJ, then you need to uninteract with VO Shift up arrow.
Out of utility categories, table.
Okay. We will VO right.
Mute sound effects, unchecked. Checkbox.
Mute sound effects. If you need to, if you don't like the sound effects VoiceOver is making, or maybe you want to
enable audio ducking, unchecked.
Maybe you want to enable audio ducking, and you don't want VoiceOver to duck with the sound effects, which sometimes I've never liked audio ducking, because what happens is, the sounds, the Mac produces sounds or VoiceOver sounds or whatever, and so then as it's making the sounds, VoiceOver's coming in quieter. So it literally sounds like VoiceOver volume is being affected. Where you might use audio ducking is if you are playing music and need to hear VoiceOver over the music. So there is a reason for audio ducking. I just don't really make use of it most of the time.
Mute, enable audio ducking, unchecked. Checkbox.
So enable audio ducking, you would space or VO space.
Enable positional audio, checked. Checkbox.
All right, positional audio is really neat. If you are wearing a pair of headphones, stereo headphones or headset, you can basically hear where your cursor is on screen. If I go all the way to the beginning with VO Home,
toolbar.
That takes you to the first visible item in the window. I could have done VO Shift Home to get all the way to the toolbar. To the close button.
Toolbar.
Actually, well, it works in some areas. You can do a home command that gets you literally to the first thing in the window. But
Zoom. Close button. Close button.
so close is at the very top left.
Close button.
And I hear that in my left ear, or almost beyond my left ear, because it's way out there.
Close button.
And then if I move right,
Minimize button. Zoom button dimmed.
it's when I hear it actually make a sound.
Toolbar.
There, toolbar, it made that. So that's still kind of in my left.
VoiceOver utility. Utility categories table.
Still
Sound.
left.
Select mute sound effects.
It's
Unchecked.
moving
Checkbox.
to the right.
Enable audio ducking. Unchecked. Checkbox. Enable positional audio. Checked.
Positional
Checkbox.
audio is almost the middle.
System default. Output device. Pop-up button.
System default, I would say, is about the middle, or the output device. And then it just keeps going on.
Help button. Help button.
Help is all the way over to the right.
Enable
So,
position. Enable audio ducking. Mute.
Let's see.
Enable system default. Output device. Pop-up button.
output device. This is very important because you can actually, this specifies what sound device VoiceOver comes out of. And why might it be good to change the output device for VoiceOver? There's a couple reasons. One, maybe you are playing music for people on your Mac, and you have VoiceOver, you need to have VoiceOver come through some headphones so that people don't hear the VoiceOver. They just get a chance to hear your music. Or maybe you are on Zoom and you are hosting a workout class or showing a movie or something, and you just want people to hear the sound without hearing VoiceOver. That's where you would set VoiceOver to a different device. If you actually want to have VoiceOver shared in Zoom, like I do, I have to have it set to the system default. But if I only wanted music or other audio to be shared and not VoiceOver, I would want to change the output device. Or maybe you prefer to listen to music in your headphones and have VoiceOver out loud. You still want to change the device. Your options, if we do VO space.
Menu check mark. System default.
System default. So let's say, my sound right now, my default is set to my Sennheiser headset. And so VoiceOver is coming out of that. If I was to go into sound in system preferences, and you would see my output device is set to the Sennheiser, and that would be where VoiceOver would come out of. But we're in the device for VoiceOver, so what are our next options?
Built-in output.
Built-in output would be my Mac speakers, so I could have VoiceOver go through that.
Sennheiser SC60 for link. Built-in check mark. System default. Built Sennheiser
so
SC60
the
for link.
Sennheiser, that's my headset.
Zoom audio device.
Never ever set VoiceOver to come through the system audio device because you won't hear it and you'll have a heck of a time getting it established back to normal. So if you want to share your VoiceOver in Zoom, have it set to system default. If you want to share regular sound in Zoom without VoiceOver, choose your headset or another set of speakers or another sound card.
System default.
All right.
Output device. Pop-up.
So this
button.
output device here just affects VoiceOver and system preferences and sound, or going into the control center and adjusting sound there. That affects your main sound, but this is VoiceOver specific.
Help button.
All right. And I will probably ask a question about that next time.
Toolbar.
Okay, so this time I did VO home. Sorry, that was just automatic. And I'm at the toolbar, so I'll VO right.
VoiceOver utility. Utility categories table. Sound. Selected.
And it made the same sound as entering a table, but it did, because I used VO right twice, I'm in this table. I do not need to interact.
Visuals. All
right, visuals are they're really for maybe a sighted instructor or anyone helping a VoiceOver user who needs to see the position of the cursor or other things. Caption panels, there's one for the trackpad. Maybe the Apple accessibility has you turn those on. I have them all off.
Commanders.
All right, there are so many things here. I'm just going to show you a little bit of how we can add or modify a keyboard command. This was in your reading.
Trackpad selected tab.
Now, because I didn't interact, I could just use VO right. I didn't use VOJ. All right, so we have trackpad, which we talked about. You can enable the trackpad commander here. If you don't remember what the key press is, or it's a bit hard to do with your hands, then you can come here. You can also search in commands help for like trackpad or keyboard commander, and then find how to enable it that way.
Numpad tab 2 of 4. Keyboard tab 3 of 4.
I'm going to press space on keyboard.
Selected. Numpad tab keyboard selected
And
tab
I was
3
using
of 4.
VO right to move among these tabs here. All right.
Quick nav tab. Enable keyboard commander.
Quick nav we will talk about in Safari, but basically those commands pertain to, they're basically first letter commands or quick website navigation. You might use something like H for heading, B for button, T for table. And if there's a command in there that you want, you can add one. Maybe there's, I don't know, like an article or a landmark or something that doesn't have a command. You could go add one. But for now, we're talking about keyboard.
Quick enable keyboard commander checked checkbox.
And so you can enable keyboard commander here or with VO Shift K or by going into commands help.
Both option keys. Use pop-up button.
Yours is probably going to say right option key. I have mine set to both. It may give you a dialogue, the option key won't behave, whatever. I've never found it, I've never had any problems. So for example, maybe, you know, it's nice to use right option V or right option T, but maybe I wanted to do something like, I don't know, maybe I wanted to use an option key with the letter U, and then it would be more ergonomic to use the left option key. There's a couple of them that I have, so I prefer using both.
Keyboard commander table.
All right, here we're in the commander. If we just want to view what these are, we can simply
Item
press...
chooser menu 64
Oops,
item closing.
I accidentally pressed a key on my numpad. Okay,
Keyboard commander table.
we can simply press down arrow.
1. Decrease rate menu button.
These are things I've added, so the number 1 decreases the rate.
2. Increase rate 3. Decrease volume 4. Increase volume menu
It's
button.
hard to press all those keys on the keyboard.
Cap A. Open window chooser menu button.
All right, what if I wanted to change, so Shift A is window chooser.
Cap W. Describe window menu button. Cap A. Open window chooser menu button.
That should be different. But what if I wanted to change this? What if I wanted to say A should be read all? How would I change this command? The easiest way I found is you
Cap
want to
A. Content selected. Edit
press
text.
Tab to get to the key command. So maybe I'd want to just change it to a lowercase a. You could just type in what you type would replace what's in there.
Open window chooser menu button.
And then I'd tab and I'd press space on the menu. And you could have 14 items, 15, depending on how many, what keys and commanders and stuff you have on your keyboard, trackpad.
General, navigation, text, web, find, tables, size and position,
You
submenu.
have all the things that are in the VoiceOver
Audio,
commands.
rail, submenu. Visual, speech, HOTS, custom, general, custom commands, submenu.
Or custom. And custom, you might find something like open app, and that's where you could set, maybe you want A to open or W to open Word or something like that. So you could choose that.
Open window chooser menu button.
But I'm not going to change that. I'm going to get out of
Out
the
of
table.
keyboard commander table.
And I'm going to look for
Add button.
And what'll happen
Add a new command. Edit text, blank.
Is as soon as you press VO space on add or space, then you would put in a key. So let's say I want to put in, I don't know, U.
U. In dialog, alert, OK button, default. The U key is already being used.
Oh, it's being used
OK
for...
button, default.
Maybe I made that my VoiceOver utility,
U.
but you
Insertion
get the
of
idea.
indent.
It will tell you if you have a key that's already being used. Okay.
U.
So what if I put Z? All right, and then
Z.
tab.
Utility categories. Search
Actually,
text.
that
Utility
didn't work so
categories
well.
table.
Sometimes tab navigation is a bit inconsistent. You may have found it easier to do via right. That's also an option. But I don't really want to make any changes here. I could delete this, but we're going to move
Voice
on.
utility categories table. Braille.
Braille, I'm just going to touch on Braille. You have a few different things here. Basically,
Translation. Selected tab.
translation, you can set the language that you use and your translation. So for example, I use English and I use Unified English Braille grade 2 or contracted.
Layout tab. 2 of 4.
Layout, you can specify if there's a cursor, the shape of the cursor, whether it uses dots 7 and 8 and so forth. You can specify whether, like in menus and dialogues, there are multiple choices on one line.
Status tab. 3 of 4.
Status, you can set the status cell, so that gives you information. Maybe if you're in a document and it might, so you can set the number of status cells and the location of them on the display.
Displays tab. 4 of 4.
And finally, displays. So when you want to add a display, if you're using a USB Braille display, you simply connect the display, put it in the appropriate mode. Sometimes for some displays that's called terminal mode, or you set it to, let's say, USB orbit or HID orbit, whatever. And then you connect it to your Mac. And if VoiceOver doesn't recognize it, then you would turn VoiceOver off, turn VoiceOver back on, and you have Braille. If you want to add it via Bluetooth, you don't add a Bluetooth Braille display in the Bluetooth preferences and system preferences. You come just like you would on iOS, you come into VoiceOver and Braille and displays, and that's where you add it.
State displays tab.
In displays, you can also view or modify or add commands for your particular display. All right, let's go back. I'm going to do VOJ.
In utility categories table. Braille.
And
Selected.
down arrow.
Activities.
Okay, activities. Rita had a great question about these last week. Like we talked about, you could set an activity. It's basically a way to customize or create a set of VoiceOver options either for a particular app or several apps, or something that you could just toggle whenever you want. So maybe in Safari, you want a different voice. I don't think you can set them per website, unfortunately, but you can either per app or just you can use VOX and that'll bring up the list of activities you've created. So you could have a different voice, you could have it read faster. Maybe you have a proofreading activity, so it slows down the speech and announces all punctuation, all attributes. So you can have fun with activities. They're very much the same as in iOS. Mac had them beforehand, but if you know some of these, some things here, if you know them on the iPhone, you'll have an idea of how to use them on the Mac. Not everything translates, but okay.
Braille. Activities.
Now,
VoiceOver recognition.
Down arrow to VoiceOver recognition. I was actually also using VO left and VO right because I forgot where I was. So you can, like I said, there's no must. You can use VO down, VO up. And here it was even letting me, because I was interacted, use VO left and right. But since we did VOJ, we need to uninteract.
Out of utility category.
Recognition pertains to, well, image recognition, which has been available on the Mac for a couple systems now. I haven't found that this new recognition option improves the recognition or makes anything different, but here we go. We'll VO right.
Using on-device intelligence, your Mac will automatically improve the accessibility of images. Voice-over recognition should not be relied upon in circumstances where you could be harmed or injured, in high-risk situations, for navigation, or for the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition. Dimmed.
We get the idea.
Image descriptions checked. Checkbox.
All right, and then if they're not
Enabling
checked,
this will trigger data downloads needed to improve image recognition.
Okay, so then it downloads some things, which, like I said, I don't think it's much of an improvement. And I've found that I still have to use the command VO-Shift-L if I encounter an image to actually hear a description. And then most of the time it will say, this image has no description. Well, gee, thanks. I was asking you for one. But whatever. All right, we're done in VoiceOver
Zoom us.
Utility.
System
And
dialog.
now
You are sharing computer site.
we will move on to
Desktop.
system
Desktop group.
preferences.
Actions available.
All right. Oh, wow. Okay, so system preferences.
Doc. Messages.
And
For system Finder. System preferences. Window. Toolbar.
all right, there are a couple ways to get through here. One is VOJ, and then VO right or tab. The other is just simply to press the tab key.
Apple ID button.
Sometimes, maybe if you adjust some of these preferences and then you come back, you'll be pressing tab will take you through the toolbar. So like back, forward, show all. But for now, it just took us to Apple ID, which you can do everything here from change your password, your email address, view, payment methods and subscriptions, things like that.
Family sharing button.
Family sharing, manage payment methods and sharing
General
for your
button.
family. General, 3 items here that are useful. You may want to check out some of these things yourself, but the main one is enable handoff between this Mac and your other devices. That should be checked automatically if you signed in to iCloud. Another one is to specify how many recent items are shown. I think this is mainly in apps like text edit, pages. The other one is for when you are working on a document. Are you prompted to save the changes or are they saved automatically? I like to be prompted. I don't like my Mac saving things automatically because I can inadvertently press a key on my keyboard. I have an affinity for doing that, just mistaking, and I could mess up a document, or maybe it's something somebody shared that I don't want to have modified. I may not want it to be saved. So I choose the option to be prompted. All right, moving on.
Desktop and screensaver button.
Desktop and screensaver, you can choose the type of screensaver. You can choose a desktop background, still or dynamic, with a screen reader, or I keep calling it a screen reader. It's a screensaver. You can specify, when it should come on. I've set mine to never. And I think the screen display still goes dim after, a few minutes, but I don't have a screensaver.
Dock and menu bar button.
Dock and menu bar. I'm going to press space on dock and menu bar.
Loading dock and menu bar, window, toolbar.
Okay, via right.
Dock and menu bar table. Dock and menu bar image. Selected.
Here we have a table, and these first few items, if we go to the via right,
Dock.
pertain to the dock, the size of the dock, the position on screen, how apps open, whether they open with animations, whether when they're minimized, are they minimized with animations? I turn the animations off, but I don't really think it matters.
Table.
But
Dock
what
and
we
menu.
are interested in,
Wi-Fi, menu bar and control center, Wi-Fi image.
okay, we have moved to different menu bar items. Now, I know that because I've been through here, but if you didn't understand how this table was organized, it may help to interact.
In table.
And then if we go to the first item with option, so in the Finder or in these tables, in these lists, option up arrow goes to the first item, option down arrow goes to the last item. In text edit, we use command to move to various spots in the document. But if option up arrow.
Dock and menu bar image, level 1.
Okay, and so that's it. If we VO down.
Control center heading.
So pressing VO down arrow lets us know we're on the control center heading. Pressing down arrow by itself, you sometimes miss that info. So you might, sometimes, same as in the Mail app, you don't have to interact with the mailboxes list, but if you want more info, such as what the accounts those mailboxes are under, then it can be useful to interact. Okay, so we will,
Dock and menu bar, control center heading.
This is the control center heading. So if we down arrow, or VO down.
Wi-Fi, menu bar and control center, Wi-Fi image, level 2.
Since we interacted, then we do need to VO down. So let's say I don't want this in the menu bar, because after all, everything just seems to open in the control center anyway. All I need to do here is tab.
Help button.
Or
show in menu bar, checked, checkbox.
There we go. It was not behaving properly. Okay, show in menu bar. I'm going to uncheck with space. It is unchecked. We didn't hear it say that. If I did VO space,
Checked.
it would say checked. If I VO space again,
Unchecked.
it'll say unchecked. All right. If I do shift tab,
Wi-Fi is always available in Control Center. Wi-Fi.
well,
Table.
it wasn't
Wi-Fi.
doing the shift
Controls.
tab. I'm trying to use tab
Selected.
more. Normally, I do not like using tab. I've avoided it, whether in Mac or Windows, but I've been trying it to try to see if I could make things easier. And it's a little quirky. Make things easier for everyone. But I'm just going to down arrow.
Bluetooth. Control Center. Bluetooth image.
All right, I could do the same thing. I could tab.
Show in menu bar. Unchecked. Checkbox.
And now tabbing is a bit easier because we did not interact. So pressing tab once made it actually go to the item. I could check it or uncheck it. I really don't want it there.
Table.
We can
Bluetooth.
keep going.
Control Center. AirDrop. Control Center. Do not disturb. Control Center. Do not disturb image.
Some of these you can.
Keyboard brightness. Control Center. Keep screen mirroring.
Some of these
Control
are
Center.
menu
Screen mirroring
only.
image. Display. Menu bar. Screen
Actually,
mirroring. Control Center.
I don't even
Screen.
need this on.
Show in menu bar. Uncheck. Help button. Show in menu
Okay,
bar. Table.
so you can't turn. It always has to show in the control center.
Display. Menu bar in Control Center. Display image.
I don't really need this on.
Show in menu
so I
bar.
can
Checked. Checkbox.
uncheck.
Help button. Show in menu
And
table. Display.
Shift tab
Control
twice.
Center. Sound. Menu bar in
So you
Control
get the
Center.
idea.
Sound
You can
image.
keep playing with this.
Show in menu bar. Checked. Checkbox. Table.
Eventually, you'll come to a category that's like menu bar
Dock in
only.
menu bar. Table.
And there is one thing in here that's the time. That's in menu bar only if you
In table.
interact.
Now playing. Menu. Other modules heading. Level 1.
You have other modules, and so now we're seeing the headings.
Accessibility. Battery. Menu bar. Fast user switching. Menu bar only heading. Level 1.
Menu bar only.
Clock. Menu bar.
So
Clock.
clock, here's where you could come if you want to turn on the hourly announcement of time. I think you can still do that in the time and date
Out of
area as
table.
well. But we want to go back into the main category. So I'm going to do command left bracket. That's to go back.
Back. Dock in menu bar. Window.
And
Toolbar.
now I am going to tab.
Forward button.
So like I said, now we're having to tab through the things in the toolbar.
Show all. Menu. Search text field. Apple ID button.
But we don't need to tab through all this again. We can do first letter navigation. So I can do DO.
Dock in menu bar button.
And then I could right arrow or tab or whatever.
Mission control button.
Mission control is basically a visual way of showing the open apps and windows on screen. In keyboard, there's a shortcuts tab, and I turn off all of the mission control shortcuts because sometimes I accidentally press control and the up arrow or down arrow, and it brings up mission control. And then it seems like you have to press escape a couple times to get out of it.
Siri button.
Siri. All right. If I VO space.
Loading Siri. Window. Toolbar.
And the first thing you want to do if Siri is not enabled is you actually need to go to the end of the window with VO end and look for Enable Ask Siri.
Enable Ask Siri. Checked. Checkbox.
Mine's already checked, but if it wasn't, I would press space, VO space, and Apple would give me its little thing about privacy, and I would say okay, and that would be that. Now that we have enabled it though,
Toolbar.
we can just do
Siri craft paint. Siri help keyboard shortcut. Siri helps you get things done just by asking. Find files on your Mac. Dictate
All
a
right,
note.
we get the
Check the
idea.
weather. Keyboard shortcut. Press FN function. Space. Pop-up button.
Okay, the default
Menu check mark.
is
Customize ellipsis off. Hold command space.
hold command space. That is also the command for Spotlight. Spotlight is basically the thing that was around before Siri and it kind of did the same things and it's expanded even more now. You can, whether you're looking for a word definition or you type in a part of a file name or a text in the file in Spotlight. So anyway, to bring Spotlight up, that is command space, but you can just leave hold command space, but sometimes I wouldn't hold it long enough and it would bring up Spotlight. So I chose function space for my Siri command.
Hold option space.
Or hold option space.
Check mark. Press FN function. Space. Customize ellipsis.
Okay.
Press FN.
And as David Woodbridge's podcast, he
Pop-up button.
talked about going to Siri in the dock and in menu extra. So those are other ways to access Siri.
English United States. Language. Pop-up button.
This is the language you speak to Siri.
Siri voice. British female. Pop-up button.
I don't like the American Siri voice. Gives me a headache. Well, not quite. I just don't like listening to her for an extended period.
Voice feedback. On selected radio button. Off radio.
If voice feedback is off, then you would just have to use VoiceOver to review what she says.
Siri history. Delete Siri and dictation history button.
And delete Siri and dictation history was recently added. So some things that
Desktop.
what I mainly use Siri
Desktop
for
group.
is to open apps. She's a bit iffy when it comes to finding files, but open VoiceOver utility.
Finder. Desktop. Chanel Herbie. Alien. VoiceOver.
Or maybe there's not you don't have
General.
an app in the dock. I actually do have text edit, but maybe you want her to open, she can open literally any app on your Mac. Another thing she can do, play the iBUG Buzz podcast.
Now playing podcast iBUG
Podcasts.
Buzz.
Window.
Hello,
Sidebar
everybody.
table.
This
Selected.
is the
Listen
iBUG
now.
Buzz
All right,
conference
what do you
call
know?
for
We have our
Monday,
iBUG Buzz
January
now.
11th, 2021.
All right, I'm
My
going to
name is
VoiceOver utility. VoiceOver utility.
Podcast, well, it's been
Window.
around on the Mac since last time, but I still
General.
don't quite know how to use it. But I could have her
Notification center.
find the
Talk
file
to Siri
text
button.
edit demonstration.
Here are 9 files matching text edit demonstration.
Okay, sometimes, you specifically have to say find the file. And you can ask her all the things like the weather. You could
General.
ask her the time, things like that. Whatever you do, you could have her do a message. Whatever you do with Siri on the iPhone, you can do with Siri on the Mac. Okay, let's
Finder.
get back into system preferences.
System preferences.
And,
Siri. Window. Delete Siri and dictation history button.
wow. All right, let's go back with command left
Back.
bracket.
Siri. Window. Toolbar.
This time I'm going to show you my preferred method for getting around system preferences. So I like to do
In
VOJ.
preference panes. Scroll area. 32 items. General button.
Now, technically VoiceOver says I'm on general, but if I was to try to do first letter navigation here, it would go into the search box. So I have to VO right once,
Desktop and screensaver
and then
button.
I could do
Siri button.
SIR for Siri. Moving on.
Spotlight button.
Spotlight, that pertains to searching on your Mac. You can specify what types of categories are searched and exclude or include whatever certain files and locations.
Language and region button.
Language and region, pretty self-explanatory. You can choose your time and date format as well.
Notifications button.
And notifications, you can customize whether, how they appear, whether they're banners, alerts, whether they have sounds, whether there's a badge app icon. In the notification center, though, you can, if you do VO command space enough, you can determine or have them set to deliver quietly. I have not found an option for that notification preferences.
Internet accounts button.
Internet accounts, you can add mail accounts here. I will show you how to add them in the Mail app.
Wallet and Apple Pay button.
Wallet and Apple Pay, the only spot I've really made use of that is the Apple website. If you want to have Safari keep track of your credit card data, though, you actually need to put that in autofill.
Touch ID button.
Touch ID, you can add a fingerprint, remove one. I think you can also specify what apps use Touch ID or if it's used for purchases and so forth. Or maybe that's an Apple ID. I don't know. There's a lot to keep track of.
Users and groups button.
Users and groups. Okay, there's one important thing here. I will VO space.
Loading users and groups window. Toolbar.
And VO right twice.
Users, groups and...
I'm going to down arrow to where it says login options.
Login options, group.
VO right.
Automatic login can't be turned on because File Vault is enabled.
Okay, we don't want to turn on automatic. So anyway, what we actually need to do
Help button.
is go to some of these things in system preferences.
Click the log to make changes
You need
button.
to go to click the log to make changes.
Help button.
And so
in dialog, enter password, secure edit text.
it's wanting
System
a
preferences
password.
is trying to unlock users and groups preferences.
ID.
Enter.
So all right.
Help button.
So now if we go to
Toolbar.
the, I'm just going to do home and then
Enter
type
search
in ACCSS.
Accessibility options button.
And then I would VO space. So you might have used the VO and the arrow keys to get here.
In dialog table. These accessibility items will automatically be enabled in the login window.
Okay.
Turning off a feature disables that.
So then
VoiceOver
you would
checked checkbox.
come and check the ones. So if you wanted VoiceOver to start in the login window, you would check
Apply button.
it.
Cancel button.
And I'm going to go to cancel because I don't really want to
Accessibility
make
options
any
button.
changes. And there we go. Command left.
Icon. Accessibility.
Okay.
Network account join button.
Let's see.
Help button.
It's not wanting to let me go back. How
Click the log to
lovely.
prevent further changes
Okay.
button.
Let's
Voice system preferences. Click the
go
log to
here.
toolbar.
Okay, I'm in the
tool back
toolbar,
button.
and there we go. All right.
Out of toolbar.
So
In preference desktop dock and mission
we
control.
have done the users.
Users and groups. Accessibility button.
All right, accessibility.
Load window.
There's a couple of things to change
Universal access
in accessibility.
Your Mac can be cut. Show accessibility status in menu bar. Checked.
So
Check.
this
Your
was
Mac
the
can be cut.
overview.
Accessibility features. Adapt your Mac to your Universal access pref image. Accessibility features table. Overview.
All right.
VoiceOver.
VoiceOver. This is one area you can turn it on.
Zoom. Display.
Display. I like to
Display selected. Tap cursor. Tap color filters. Tab. Convert
change.
colors. Classic invert. Reduce motion. Checked. Checkbox.
I like to enable reduced motion. It's always recommended to do that on the iOS devices. It makes VoiceOver a little
increase
less
contrast.
jumpy.
Unchecked. Checkbox.
You have increased. Let's
Reduce
see, which other one?
transparency. Checked. Checkbox.
And I also enable reduced
Increase
transparency.
reduce classic invert color filter cursor display accessibility features table
I'm VO left
display
arrowing back
selected
to the features.
spoken content.
Okay, spoken content. This is more for somebody who doesn't want to use VoiceOver. You can turn on announcement of like system notifications. You can specify a keyboard command to read the screen. It's really for someone who wants to use their vision but have some things read out.
Descriptions.
Descriptions. You want to
Audio
turn this
descriptions
off,
provide a spoken description of
not
visual
off,
content in
on, and it mainly affects like the iTunes or Apple TV. And if something has audio description, then it will automatically be enabled. I'm not sure if it
play
works
audio descriptions when available. Checked checkbox.
for third-party services. It doesn't do things like what I thought. Oh, that means it's going to describe YouTube videos. No, not quite.
Audio
So,
descriptions accessibility features.
It just mainly pertains to Apple TV
Descriptions.
and maybe even other
Selected.
movies and things.
Audio.
Okay.
RTT. Keyboard voice control.
Voice control is dictation, but it's for people who have limited mobility, that have physical and motor disabilities. And so it's a way for them to control the Mac entirely with the voice. VoiceOver commands have been added, but they are not as extensive as they are on the iPhone. And even on the iPhone, I wouldn't recommend using it, as a VoiceOver user unless you really needed to. The dictation for dictating a message or, writing a few things in text edit works just fine.
Voice control allows you to edit text. Enable voice control. Unchecked. Checkbox.
So you would check the checkbox to enable voice control if you wanted.
English United Sennheiser none. Overlay.
Choose
Pop-up
your
button. Show
headset.
homes. Checked. Check play sound with commands button.
And then finally, if you want to know what commands are available, you would go to commands.
Accessibility. Voice accessibility keyboard.
Okay.
Voice control keyboard. Pointer
And
control.
that's all that really is in
Accessibility
accessibility. So I'm going to go back
Back. Accessibility window.
and
In preference panes.
I did
Scroll area.
VOJ, VO right.
Desktop and screensaver.
AC.
Accessibility button. Screen time button.
All right.
Extensions button. Security and privacy
Security and privacy. There are 4 categories there. General, the main thing you can do is, specify like from what developers you can get apps. And if you have an Apple Watch, you can enable your Mac to be unlocked with that. You have the firewall, which you can turn on. File Vault, which encrypts your disk, and accessibility. And you might think, okay, why do we need another accessibility? Well, what it really means is giving you can set up which apps should have access to other apps and files. That's really, so think of it as app access. I've had to enable like screen sharing and audio recording, whatever those categories from within accessibility for Zoom, Dropbox. There's full disk access. So it's basically, you really have enhanced security on your Mac, and granting apps permission for things is done in accessibility in system and privacy. All right.
Software update button.
Software update. You want to just come here. This is where you could come to manually check for updates. You could also just make sure that automatic updates are enabled.
Network button. Bluetooth button.
Network, you can specify, whether you use Wi-Fi, Ethernet, arrange the order of preferred networks.
Bluetooth button.
Bluetooth is where you would come to add a new Bluetooth device, anything except for a Braille display. If a device has already been connected and paired to your Mac, you can just go into menu extras or the control center, and then you would go into Bluetooth and look for that device and VO space, and it should connect. But if you want to add a new device, you go into Bluetooth.
Sound button.
Sound. You have lots of things here, from sound effects, including you can enable or disable the startup chime on new Macs, and you can just set like your output device, your input device, set your volume.
Printers and scanners button.
I've never added a printer, but I think it's pretty straightforward.
Keyboard button.
Keyboard, the one thing, if you want to use regular dictation,
loading keyboard
you
window.
need to go to keyboard and the
selected
dictation
tab.
category.
Text, shortcuts, inputs, or dictation tab. Selected.
VO space on dictation.
Use dictation wherever you can type dictation. On selected radio button.
On, and there you go. And then you would
Off
choose
radio Sennheiser SC60 for
the microphone for that. My only advice with dictation is be using a microphone or headset. Don't try to rely on just your internal mic, even if you're close to your Mac. Think out a little bit of what you want to say ahead of time, because it's not like recording an audio or voice message, and then speak clearly. Those are my
radio
things
button,
for
2 of 2.
dictation, and maybe we'll do a little dictation in
use
text
dictation.
edit.
Selected tab.
And
5 of 5.
let's see. Finally,
back keyboard window toolbar.
There's one thing. If you are having problems with the keyboard and with pressing tab, if you go to the keyboard category
in preference pane, desktop,
and if you go to
keyboard
shortcuts,
button, loading keyboard,
then,
keyboard text, shortcuts tab, selected,
and you go to the end of the
help
window,
button, set up blue 100 per image, keyboard battery press the tab key, use keyboard navigation to move focus between controls, checked, checkbox, use keyboard navigation to move focus between controls, checked,
keyboard
checkbox,
navigation to move focus between controls. I think I listened to a podcast recently, and David Woodbridge said that wasn't enabled by default. So come into keyboard, go to shortcuts, and make sure that the keyboard control is enabled. Okay,
back.
That is my presentation. It was a whirlwind.
VoiceOver utility, system preferences,
encourage you to
system
to listen to or go through some of these
VoiceOver
on your
Finder,
own.
Zoom
Get
us,
back to
Zoom us, system dialog,
Okay.
mute all checked.
And
You are
let's
sharing
see.
computer sound, January 19th, 8:12 p.m.
All right, we have a couple minutes for questions. If anyone has a question, I should have unmuted.
Stop share button.
Yes?
Chanel, this is Rosanna.
Yes, Rosanna, go ahead.
I use the VOJ when I'm in mail to get into mail and come out of it, but you were using it for other areas. Like in what instances would you use VOJ rather than, rather than VO right or left out?
I don't actually use VOJ in mail. I'll show you other ways of doing in mail. You can use it, but that's not I use it whenever I want to quickly jump from one area to another that's not, within a VO left or VO right, within a few presses away or a couple tabs. So it's great to, when there are like toolbars and tables on the screen and different. So yes, it does work in the Mail app, but I find it more effective I think it's personal preference. That's the bottom line. You'll come to learn when to use it. I mean, It's kind of like another it's one thing I don't think I really used it very much when I learned the Mac, and I think my Mac experience has just kind of evolved. Like a couple years ago, I decided, okay, I'll, start using it more. Now I'm trying to use Tab more. So it's, you try to learn, it's technically called jump to linked item, but I say it just jumps to different content areas. Like I love to use it in Zoom. If I open the participants list, to use it to jump into the list.
Oh, it will work there? That's awesome.
Yeah, well, just try whenever you want. Just try it. See where it works. That's the best advice I can give you. You're
Cool.
not going to mess anything up. Anything, if you want to quickly get somewhere and you feel like you press VO right and left a bunch or tab, try VOJ. If you think, just try any of these things and see what works. That's ultimately what I did.
Thanks. That helped a lot. Thank you.
Yeah,
Makes it easier.
definitely.
This is Nancy.
Yes, Nancy.
I have two quick questions.
Was Jason trying to ask one though first, or was I just hearing things?
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess it's more a personal question to you. Did you say you kind of remapped or whatever you want to call it, like your F12, F11? I didn't know if you could kind of show us the example of how you set
Well,
your
I didn't
keyboard.
remap it, and I did
Okay.
talk about that last time, but just for review, you go into System Preferences, you go to Keyboard, and then say where the things say Touch Bar shows, and then there's an option that says use F1, F2, etc. keys. In some Macs it'll say on external keyboards. If you're using the MacBook Air, it probably won't. But you want to set it to use. You set F1, F2, etc. to. You want to check the option there. I can't remember the exact wording,
Well,
but
what I was curious about is, do you have something that you've done just for context of what you've changed for, just so I have something to relate it
oh,
to?
well, I make like my keys, the numbers 1 through 4 for rate and volume.
Okay, okay.
That's, I was playing around. I use like right option A or whatever for the application chooser if I didn't want to use the VO. I mean, if I didn't want to use the function keys, I've never used some things I've tried to create and I've never used, or commands for reading the next sentence or it's just, I find it's just kind of what you need at the time. Sometimes they will set a command to mute voiceover speech because you can do that on the trackpad, but if I don't have easy access to the trackpad, then it's easier just to press a keyboard command. So it's really fluid. My commands might change every now and then.
Okay,
What I
thanks.
set up. Yeah. Sorry that can't be. I think Rita might be able. She was working on something for keyboard commanders. So Nancy, yeah, I think so. You have a question.
Yeah, okay. I have two quick questions. One is can you use Touch ID on a Mac is that just for newer Macs, or is there a way to set that up on I have a Mac I got in 2017. I think it's
Oh, your Mac might have it then. Because if you is yours like a MacBook Air or
it's a MacBook Pro.
oh yeah, so does it have a touch bar?
No, it's got the it's the function keys.
Oh, then I've never seen a MacBook Pro. Yours is a laptop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a MacBook Pro from 2017 as well, and mine has the function bar. It's the strip at the top, and
Yeah,
then
that's what mine has too.
yeah.
Oh, no, I think mine. And does yours have function keys as well?
No, it just has the touch
Oh.
bar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, mine has the function keys.
So it must not be a MacBook. Must be a MacBook Air. But if is there like what does the power button look like on your, like, is it a round circle or is it kind of more of a squarish? And where is it? Like,
it's right next to the function keys. It's right next to the
okay.
F12, and it's a square key, just like the
Oh,
function.
have you seen Touch ID then? Let me in your system preferences.
I haven't, so I haven't looked for it though.
Okay, yeah, look and see, because if you have it, it'll be there. If not, it won't.
Okay, I'll check.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then my other question is, I've been playing around with the customizing using the option keys, and I did the same thing. I set up both option.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm trying to get some of the apps
Mm-hmm.
or opening apps to change. Like I've been trying to do that option N for notes.
Okay.
And for some reason, when I go to custom
Mm-hmm.
and I arrow over to applications, open applications, and I find notes, I VO space on it, and it won't accept my it
Try
won't
enter.
enter
Yeah.
on the notes.
Yes.
Okay, and then that should take me back to the keyboard list.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
It
'Cause I've
should.
tried
I
it-
mean, granted, I say that now it won't work, but that's what it should do.
Yeah, I've tried it both ways. I've tried
Okay.
putting the N in first and then going over, and then I've tried going and finding the application and trying to get back to the letter.
All right.
I can't figure it out.
Huh. I'll try to see if I can add that, and I'll see what happens on my end.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
This is Rita.
Yes, Rita.
Question, could you elaborate a little further on the keyboard navigation control? What does that do? I mean, does it make the voiceover cursor follow?
No. So the option I was talking about in system preferences, or the one
Yes.
in the utility?
System preferences, the one
Yeah,
you just
I
did.
think it used to be labeled as use tab to highlight each item, but now it's, so I think it mainly pertains to the tab
You are
key.
sharing.
So I don't think that has to do with the voiceover. But it's worded a little bit differently now as opposed to when, like in Catalina. But I think it just has to do with tab. I'd have to look into that more.
Okay, so it's for kind of having the keyboard track your insertion
That's
cursor,
in the voiceover utility.
right?
So let's see.
System preference. Zoom. But toolbar.
Where were
Preference
we at?
panes.
Let's
Scroll
see.
area
Oh,
forward
we
button.
went back. Yeah. So
Yeah, it was
I'll
the
have to
very
look at
last
that
thing you
option.
told
Yeah,
me.
I know. I'll have to look.
In preference, desktop
Let's
and scroll
see.
keyboard button. Loading keyboard, text, shortcuts. Help button. Set up Bluetooth
Oh,
keyboard.
well, I tell you what, there's a help right at the end of this, so you might be able to go in there and look at a better explanation. Yeah.
100 image key. Press the tab key to move focus forward and shift tab to move focus backward.
So that's the description of the item. So press tab to move focus forward and shift tab to move focus backward. That's the description to the right. If I VO left once more.
Use keyboard navigation to move focus between controls. Checked. Checkbox.
So that's what the option is. And then if you VO right.
Press the tab key to move focus forward and shift tab to move focus.
That's the description of what it does.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
It helps a little bit, yes.
Okay.
And,
all right.
And I'd be happy to post those directions that I wrote for if for custom controls to the list if people are interested in.
I will. I started to look over them, but I will do that later tonight or tomorrow and get that back to you.
That would be helpful.
All
That
right,
would be
great.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Zoom.
as I mentioned, next week is Macintalk, and
you are sharing computer
I'll
sound.
still be here at
You are sharing
6:30,
computer sound.
But we'll just be talking about, what people want to bring up on Macintalk, so it won't really be for class-specific questions, but you can still ask class-specific questions once Macintalk starts, or more so like, how do you do this in the voiceover, or some of the topics that you've brought up would be excellent questions. So be sure to come for that. And I will see you next week. Thank you very much.
Chanel, this is Dorothy. Can I
Thank
ask a
you,
question?
Chanel.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Okay, when you're in the menu bar extras, and
Mhm.
you were saying you have control center. I don't
Yes.
have control center, so is it something I have to
Oh,
put
it's
there?
yeah, it's in Big Sur. I'm sorry if
Oh,
I forgot to mention that.
okay,
It's that's right. You're not able to update. So yeah,
okay.
it's you
I
don't
just
have to
want to
worry
make
about
sure.
that. Yep, no
Okay, thank you.
problem. Uh-huh.
I've got a couple questions. So you said the Mac Talk is what day?
Is the same time as our class. So next Tuesday
Okay,
at 7.
okay,
Yeah, 7, and that goes from 7 to 8:30. So
But that's a different Zoom link though,
no,
correct?
it's the same.
It's the same Zoom link?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
thank
Chanel.
you.
Yep.
Thanks, Chanel.
Yeah, thank you.